Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
And welcome to Sofa Reviews. Today we're watching Jason X.
Released in 2001, it was an attempt to breathe new life into a dying series by taking it into space.
As if that would help.
So after an incredibly long opening credits scene, we see Jason in a scientific research facility.
While Jason is chained up, a soldier decides to try some feng shui.
Meanwhile, a typical government douchebag turns up to collect Jason.
What are you doing here?
I'm taking the specimen.
Well, you can't. I haven't prepped the cryostasis chamber.
I don't want him frozen, Rowan. I want him soft.
The term you're looking for is flaccid.
He explains that he wants to move Jason to research his regenerative ability, moving the violent psychopath rather than moving some equipment into the facility instead.
And you're willing to risk the deaths of innocent civilians if he escapes?
Yes.
Well, it seems fair enough. If you crack the secret of regeneration, you could easily heal anyone that he kills.
They go to find Jason and find a dead soldier instead.
So ninja, lock-picking, dead body-posing Jason appears behind them and casually kills the other soldiers.
The female scientist, Rowan, gets the impression that something's gone wrong.
Get out of here!
Picking up the dead guy's shotgun, she instantly becomes a badass and single-handedly traps Jason in a cryo chamber.
Ah, she went to the Gordon Freeman School of Science.
Jason pays his respects to a worthy foe through the medium of stabbing.
This causes a breach, which means she gets frozen as well. Though, strangely, no one chooses to investigate the dead soldiers.
Well, it's part of their several men left behind policy.
We now cut to the year 2445, and some space students discover Rowan and Jason.
Don't touch anything. KM?
She's perfectly preserved.
It's almost like she's been frozen.
And so, to detract from the moment, we see the slacker student, Azrael, messing about.
Well, there goes his sex life.
Was that a masturbation joke?
No, it's a joke about sex with a frozen mug.
Anyway, they take both the bodies to the ship.
Being a student ship, they have a squad of Marines on board.
We also get to meet the pilot, who gets a bit too excited at the prospect of it being a female.
Female? Yeah.
They don't even say human. It could be anything, like a pig
Or a mug.
Yeah, what? Shut up!
On the main ship, they fix the stoner's arm, prepare to revive Rowan, and perform an autopsy on Jason.
Now, I'm not sure if it's the fact that they're about to do an autopsy or if it's the steaming corpse next to them, but these two get pretty horny.
Well, if they're anything like me, it'll be the poorly written script.
Meanwhile, the process to revive Rowan goes without a hitch.
Of course they know the best way for someone to wake up after hundreds of years being frozen is to find yourself naked and surrounded by people.
Easy, easy.
She seems to accept this quite quickly, and we soon see the professor talking to some guy explaining that Jason Voorhees is quite valuable.
Elsewhere, we see the blonde woman performing the autopsy, and she decides to remove Jason's mask by cutting into his face rather than maybe the straps.
And of course, it wouldn't be a sci-fi horror without random sex scenes.
And the sound of a woman faking her orgasm is enough to send Jason into action.
Jason kills the blonde woman and heads off, while the professor goes to see Rowan.
I brought you something to eat. Not much longer and we'll be at Earth 2.
This time it's personal.
Seriously? Earth 2? Did creativity die with the planet?
You want to tell me what happened down there? I take it being stabbed and frozen wasn't part of your plan.
You condescending prick.
Rowan explains to the professor that Jason can't be killed and what went wrong.
Everything seems to be going fine as she meets the students until one of them shows up with Jason's machete.
Of course, the professor is adamant that Jason is dead.
Believe me, he's definitely dead.
Show me.
I'm putting us on lockdown.
Ha!
I told you so.
Because the ship's on lockdown, Jason stabs one of the students.
Taking him away to show him his stamp collection, a fate worse than death.
The girl meets up with the others, taking the time to clean her face but not put trousers on.
We also get to see one of the Marines playing a hologram game with Azrael.
Until Jason shows up and somehow interacts with the projector.
Thought this was an alien sim.
Yeah, it is. Pause play. I said pause play.
Neither one of them seems to twig that perhaps he won't pause because he's not part of the game, which makes it quite reassuring that they're going to die soon.
They turn off the game and... Wait, why would they have VR controls and a holodeck? Surely it would be one or the other.
As it turns out, if they'd stayed in the game, they would have been safe, but it does at least lead to the most casual yet awesome kill.
After Jason casually kills the Marine, we get to see that the Sergeant at least has some principles.
I need him alive.
No, you want him alive, but what you need is to get out of my way.
Look, there are other considerations. Financial considerations.
My only consideration is the safety of the people on this ship.
The Marines head into the cargo bay looking for Jason, as Jason finds a fat guy.
He's the engineer, and the Sergeant shows up just in time to save him.
They also manage to save Jason from all the expensive equipment he's surrounded by.
As there are 3 people staring directly at him, Jason manages to disappear.
And so we go to the cargo bay, as Jason picks off the Marines one by one without anyone noticing.
Jason attacks one who manages to dart out of the way in time.
I could radio for help, but maybe I can knock out the unstoppable killer.
He's thrown onto a giant screw, which... Wait, why would they even have that? Then build a bridge over it?
Well, it's a research ship, so for science?
Sarge, we found Condor.
What's his condition?
He's screwed.
Oh, so that's why they had it. A tasteless pun. I'm so glad we waited for that.
Jason decides to abandon being a ninja and lets one guy shoot him.
Which has the added bonus of getting him impaled on a hook.
Don't take your eyes off him. I'm on my way.
Don't take my eyes off him? Well, that's the first thing I'm going to do. So now it's Jason versus the Sergeant. Who will win?
The Sergeant deciding that if he's going to die, he may as well go out on a joke.
It's gonna take more than a poke in the ribs to put down this old dog. Yeah, that ought to do it.
Now that all the Marines are dead, I guess we're just waiting for Jason to finish off the students.
At this point they realise they're approaching the space station Solaris, where they can get help.
But in the future, there is no cockpit security, and the pilot is killed.
It also seems that in the future there are no tractor beams, shields or defensive weaponry to stop them from crashing straight into the space station.
So the space station explodes, and considering its lack of defences and being made of glass, I'm amazed it lasted as long as it did.
As they're dealing with this, Jason knocks on the door.
Thank you.
Also in the future, they don't seem to have peepholes or cameras to see who's on the other side of the door.
I don't think he's out there.
Why don't you just stick your head out and have a peek?
Unable to get through the door, Jason jumps through a window instead.
Everyone runs off, leaving the professor to chat with Jason.
Oh, shit. Oh, you want your machete back? Shit, it's yours. Take it. Just remember who saved it for you. Guys, it's okay. He just wanted his machete back. Woo!
They all drink lemonade. The end.
After listening to the professor's death scream, it takes a person from the past to remind them that they have a shuttle they could escape on.
They split up in order to get to the shuttle, but things aren't looking good.
So what do you think? We gonna make it?
Well, the statistical probability of survival is 12%.
12%? Can't you come up with better odds than that?
Apparently, kissing a robot increases your chances of survival.
Statistical probability of survival just went up to 53%.
I don't get it. First dead corpses make people horny, and now statistics. Rowan finds the sergeant as the engineer prepares the shuttle.
Rowan gets someone to help her with carrying the sergeant, but it turns out he's decided to walk it off.
Where's Brodsky?
He was here. I don't get it.
Jason turns up with the professor's head to kill the engineer, and one girl starts to panic.
In her panic, she locks the door to the shuttle, even though at this point she'd know exactly where Jason is and that he's a good distance away from them.
So, thanks to one girl's stupidity, the shuttle is destroyed and the movie is prolonged.
Jason corners them and is about to kill them when the robot shows up.
So, is sex how you upgrade a robot?
Afraid I'm gonna have to hurt you now.
Or not.
But she was just luring him in, and after lots of shooting and pointless flipping about, she just gets a big gun out and starts shooting off his limbs.
She finally blows his head up, and this actually kills him.
We tried everything.
They take the sergeant to heal him up, and then they find out they're running out of oxygen.
Yeah, Jason in space, where they all die of suffocation.
Luckily, super scientist Rowan comes up with the idea to separate the leaking ship by blowing up the links to it and closing off the walkways.
Of course, this is all going far too well, so the machinery decides to activate and heal Jason with the nanomites.
This means that Jason can come back, now half metal.
The robot attempts to fight him, but can't do any damage.
You could try shooting the non-metal parts.
That's a stupid idea, Matt. She instead kicks him, giving him the chance to punch her head off.
They flee, and the guy they callously leave behind is kind enough to sacrifice himself by detonating the bombs.
So Jason is blown up and blasted into space, meaning they can rest easy.
I think we're finally okay.
They don't even take a moment to think about their friend who sacrificed himself so they could live.
It turns out that Jason can be frozen, but the void of space is nothing to him, and so he punctures the hole.
This causes the bitchy character to die, and nothing of value is lost, apart from our time and money.
Oh, this sucks on so many levels!
Bizarrely, this almost seems to be a moral to the story. After all, if she hadn't been sleeping with the professor, she'd have failed the course, and so wouldn't have been on the ship.
They get to the door, but it turns out it won't open, so Sarge has to go EVA.
As Jason breaks through the hatches, now with suddenly no pressure on the ship, they realise they need a way to slow him down.
They do this with a holographic recreation of Crystal Lake for Jason.
This is created with the help of the robot's head, so not just collected for sexual purposes.
This works until Jason somehow manages to spot them through the hologram?
To distract Jason further, he creates some holograms, which, along with random nudity, also provides the best kill of the film.
Although it's a bit odd how the best kill in the movie never actually happened.
The ship starts exploding as they finally get the door open, causing the hologram to collapse.
They get onto the ship only for Rowan to run back and get the robot's head.
Because that's clearly not something that you could easily replace.
Jason is about to get to the rescue ship when the sergeant turns up to save the day.
They manage to disconnect as the other ship finally explodes.
Although they then realise that Jason is being blasted towards them.
Until the sergeant decides to yet again be a badass and yet again save them.
The sergeant pushes both of them towards a nearby planet, meaning the three least unlikable characters who weren't black survive.
And so Jason and the sergeant burn up on re-entry in a scene that could almost be called romantic.
And so the film ends. And in conclusion, there are some good things about this movie. The Sarge character, for example, is a decent, principled guy who is pretty badass overall and has some cool moments. And even Rowan comes across as competent and at least trying to do the best and thinking tactically throughout the whole thing. Some of the deaths are pretty cool, such as the spine break, the guy that gets his neck broken, the frozen face shattering, though the idea of Jason just wanting his machete back was kind of funny.
The film just seems to have a really bizarre idea of how the future would be. First of all, every woman has to show off her midriff at all times. They've abandoned any ideas of health and safety or pilot security, and all the people in the future seem to be quite stupid, needing the person from the past, whose information is out of date, to come up with plans for them and tell them what to do. Most of the conversations they have are tedious and annoying, and finally, the best death scene in the film with the sleeping bags isn't even original, it's just a repeat of one they used in Jason 8.
Bullshit, KM, that's bullshit!